This one I've been wanting to do for a while. I really like Hashirama and Madara, which is one reason why I vote for those two constantly on the Naruto Top 99 poll. Your boy wants to see a spin-off centered on one of those two very badly. Regardless of who wins though, it doesn't change that I want to tell this story. As we all know, there is a direct link between Naruto, Hashirama Senju, and Asura Otsutsuki, just as there is a direct link between Sasuke, Madara Uchiha, and Indra Otsutsuki. And while all are very similar in the way that they act, there is a distinct difference in personality that each one possesses, as well as general ability, and I just thought it might be interesting to see what would happen if we switched their places. So here we are. Let's see what would change if the two shifted places.
Welcome to the Amagi! Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Also, we just released some brand new merch. If you'd like to show your support for the channel even further while at the same time repping stylish clothing, be sure to check that out as well. The store is linked below. YouTube's been unsubscribing users from channels lately, so if you're a fan of us, please do us a favor and double check to see if you're still subscribed. It only takes a second and it helps us a ton here at Amagi. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
Alright, our story starts during the Warring States period. It's a time of great strife between the Senju and Uchiha clan. The curse of hatred having sown its roots so deep that, even without any explanation besides revenge, both sides find themselves fighting endlessly. Day by day, more men, women, and children lose their lives in a war they don't understand or want, yet feel it is their duty to wage. The endless wars between the Senju and Uchiha fuel the flames of other conflict, and in turn themselves are fueled by it and this never-ending cycle of death, murder, and hatred. Standing at the head of this conflict are the clan leaders Butsuma Senju and Taijima Uchiha. Between them there are 9 children, and by the end of the war only 3 of them survive. In the Naruto main timeline, I don't recall any of Madara's brothers being named besides Izuna. However, Hashirama's brothers were all named. There was Hashirama himself, standing as the eldest, Tobirama, the second born, and then Kawarama and Itama. Though in this AU I'm telling, the eldest would be Naruto. Seems kinda weird to break the Tama naming conventions though. Narutama? Nah, we'll just stick with Naruto. Naruto, like all other Senju, fought the Uchiha, learning the horrors of war quickly. Naruto had large chakra reserves, but his capabilities were very low, or so it seemed. He had a determination that shook the heavens. His pure ability to learn and try until he made something of himself helped him to grow strong. That, on top of a sizable amount of Naruto luck, in which things always seem to go well for a protagonist, helps Naruto to at least not die until he has sufficiently mastered enough skills, such as his multi-shadow clone jutsu. Elsewhere, the eldest son of Taijima Uchiha, a boy named Sasuke, seems to have the natural ability and power to kill even older Senju clan warriors. He has a deep well of chakra and the ability to use it through his fireball technique. Despite their busy schedules killing each other's family, Sasuke and Naruto meet. Sasuke doesn't know that Naruto isn't an Uchiha, but he also doesn't know if he is, though both can guess by looking at the other that they might be of the opposing clan. Yet they say nothing. Sasuke seems distant and Naruto seems too shy to move in for a little while, but eventually Naruto would move in and introduce himself to Sasuke. Naruto thinks to himself, please be named Sasuke Senju, not only because then they could be great friends, but also because the name Sasuke Senju sounds awesome. Sasuke would seem to introduce himself begrudgingly, asking what he wants. Naruto would get angry and say, nothing, what would I want with a guy like you? And he'd walk off, but eventually Naruto would return and see Sasuke sitting there again, and once more they act standoffish towards one another. But upon another spontaneous conversation, they begin to actually talk about each other. This happens off and on for quite some time until Naruto and Sasuke become rather good friends, with Naruto actually capable of making Sasuke laugh. The two get into contests quite often, to which Sasuke is generally the winner. Whether it be skipping stones or pissing in the river, they're always trying to outdo each other. They share with each other their dreams, and Naruto states that it would be nice to never have to kill or lose friends and family again. Sasuke would mirror those sentiments. However, time isn't so kind to our heroes. Death comes knocking on their doors as the wars rage on. All of Sasuke's little brothers, save for Itachi, die, and it's the pain of that loss that awakens his Sharingan as he swears vengeance against the Senju. As for Naruto, his little brothers Itama and Kawarama were lost to the war as well. Naruto, his fist clenched, said that it was a pointless death. That statement was enough to cause Butsuma to backhand Naruto, but this didn't stop him. Naruto stood and continued, telling Butsuma that it was a pointless death. He told his father that the Senju and Uchiha couldn't even remember why they were fighting. Kawurama fought and died in a war that he had no clue what it was caused by. He said that he believed that even Butsuma didn't know what had started the war. Butsuma would backhand Naruto again, but once more Naruto would stand, his fists clenched, his teeth showing, staring through his eyebrows. "Hit me all you like," he told his father. "It doesn't change the fact that Kawurama is dead, and it doesn't change the fact that it's your fault." After saying that, Naruto was beaten so severely that he was left bedridden for a week. Itama was heartbroken from the death of his brother. His heart was soft and his tears were unable to be held back. He, much like his brothers, began to search for peace, wanting to stop the deaths of their family, hoping to end the cycle by swallowing the bitter pill known as hatred in hopes of some form of mutual respect and even love could blossom between the two clans. Such a thing was not to be though, as Itama, his heart soft and fragile, found himself surrounded by Uchiha clan members. Scared and helplessly alone, he could do nothing else besides holding his weapon. Sadly, he wasn't able to survive such a thing. Naruto would find his body one day, unable to believe it. He would slowly draw closer to his little brother, thinking that perhaps he might spring back up and dust himself off. "Itama?" he cried out, hoping for an answer. "Itama," he said, believing this to be some cruel joke being played on him. Coming to his side, he rolled him over and looked down. Naruto's face remained stunned as massive tears began to roll down his cheeks. Naruto blankly stared through tears at his little brother until it began to sink in. His nose curled as his eyes squinted, his cheeks pulling his lips open and down, his breathing began to hiccup as he found himself unable to take a deep breath without trembling. He let out a cry, wondering why this world had to be so cruel, why hate had to exist in the world, why such a gentle soul should be forced to carry a blade and fall on someone else's. Having lost his little brother, Naruto screamed out in anger, rage, and sorrow, his voice full of hatred, but not hatred of the Uchiha clan and not hatred of his father. It was hatred of the very concept that brought them to this point, to this death and war. It was hatred of hatred itself. Naruto had a hard time recovering from that, and on his day off, he found himself by the river again, sitting on the bank, thinking about Kawurama and Itama, how they had to die for the sake of a war that nobody wanted. When Sasuke showed up, he asked Naruto what was wrong, and Naruto said that he just lost another little brother in the war. Sasuke would state that he has already lost 3. Come back when you have a real story, Naruto. In actuality though, there was comfort in Sasuke's voice as both continued to seek peace. Eventually, Taijima and Butsuma would discover what their sons were doing and engage in combat, attempting to kill the other. In the end, Naruto and Sasuke convinced their parents and brothers to step back. Naruto sighed with relief, but Sasuke told him to enjoy the relief now, because the next time they saw each other there would be hell to pay. Naruto asked what he meant by that, and Sasuke stated that the Senju clan had killed so many of his own, and that he wouldn't stop until he got his revenge. From that point on, Naruto and Sasuke met each other on the battlefield, every time each one growing stronger. Sasuke gaining a Mangekyo Sharingan and Naruto gaining Sage Mode. Naruto proved that he had grown as he began to best Sasuke, but he always refused to kill him or Itachi, saying that he still believed in their peaceful world. At some point, Naruto and Sasuke became the heads of their respective villages, and Naruto continued to engage in battle, begging for peace talks with the Uchiha, but nothing ever came of it. However, one day, Itachi began to grow sick. On the battlefield, he started coughing up blood. It was then that Naruto would find him, and instead of killing him, he would pick him up and walk him back to Uchiha territory where Sasuke would find them. Sasuke would take Itachi and turn away as the Uchiha attempted to kill Naruto. Naruto would flee through the woods in an attempt to escape. Sasuke and Naruto continued to meet in battle, with Naruto sparing Sasuke every time. Sasuke wondered if he was trying to win him back or if he was simply stupid. Perhaps both. But the time came when Itachi could no longer fight. He was bedridden and dying. Sasuke was by his brother's side. As he died, Itachi begged Sasuke to reconsider peace with the Senju. At first, Sasuke waved it off, but Itachi begged him to reconsider. Sasuke looked back at his brother, whose teeth were stained pink by his own blood. Itachi spoke and said, "This war will only end when you swallow your pain. They have lost just as we, and they also hate us just as you hate them. But look at Naruto. Despite losing his brothers as well, he's begging for peace, sparing as many Uchiha as possible as he refuses to take them away from their families. You can truly make the world you and he dreamed of. A world where no children die. You just need to take this chance, if for no other reason than as my dying wish. Please, end the conflict." Sasuke would consider those words carefully. Later that night, Itachi would pass away. Sasuke was heartbroken, but by this time his heart had calloused over. He would call for Naruto and they would meet by the same river where they had played all those years earlier. Naruto would show up and ask what was up. Sasuke would mention that Itachi was dead. Naruto would offer an apology, and then Sasuke would ask him why he always did that. Why was it that he apologized over the deaths of his enemies? Why was it that he refused to kill him and Itachi? Why was it that he sought that foolish dream of peace? Naruto would respond with it being the only thing keeping him going. He needed to believe that killing would end, else he would kill himself right then and there. Sasuke would listen and speak. How can you believe it though? For generations we've fought. Why would we stop now? How can we? So much blood has been lost. It would all be for nothing if they just gave in. Naruto would respond by saying, "It would all be for nothing if we continue." Sasuke looked back and spoke. "It was Itachi's dying wish that I forgive the Senju, so tell me things will be different if I do. Tell me we will live in peace with equality, no more bloodshed." Naruto would nod, "I promise." Sasuke would then move forward and shake Naruto's hand. Naruto would take his hand and pull him into a hug, and from that point on, the war came to an end. With Tobirama's help, Naruto and Sasuke would begin to formulate a new system for shinobi, as their clans began to become one. One day, while looking at the village through the leaves, Sasuke coined the term village hidden in the leaves. Together they worked side by side. Naruto stated that only one of them could be the Hokage, and Naruto insisted that they should have at least one contest to see who it would be. In the end, Naruto won and was named Hokage. As time passed, Naruto and Sasuke's village thrived, and Sasuke found himself pleased with the progress. Having grown to respect the kind of man that Naruto had become, Sasuke would serve as Naruto's advisor, a sort of shadow Hokage alongside Tobirama. Of course, Sasuke would find the Uchiha monument. It was altered, but unlike Madara, what Sasuke saw when he looked at the monument was a threat. A genjutsu was a weapon that could be cast on the world. Such a tool should only be wielded in the most careful of hands. Time passes, and Naruto, Sasuke, and Tobirama discover the tailed beasts. Sasuke believed that such a thing was dangerous. Tobirama thought that such a thing could be a weapon. Naruto thought that such a thing could be a friend. And so he began to make peace with Kurama. As time passed, it seemed that war was becoming inevitable. Naruto had been attacked by Kakazu of the village hidden by a waterfall, but he had survived the experience with the help of Sasuke and Tobirama. Sasuke would end up wounded by the events, and Naruto would share some of his chakra with Sasuke to help him survive. Sasuke, of course, did, and unbeknownst to anyone, this caused him to awaken the Rinnegan. Time passed, however, and war came along. Naruto's softness would lead to his eventual death. Tobirama would take his place. Eventually, time and war would also claim Tobirama and Sasuke. So much would take place from that point on. Whether it was Naruto's wish or not, other villages would weaponize their tailed beasts to use for battle, with only Naruto's wife, Mito Uzumaki, stopping Konoha from doing the same. Sometime after Sasuke's death, the Rinnegan are pilfered from his body and transplanted into the head of Nagato Uzumaki, who would go on to form the Akatsuki. As the war continued, we would meet a young boy named Obito, who would perish saving Rin and Kakashi from a cave-in. This results in Obito's actual death, as nobody is there to save him. However, this also results in Rin's survival, as there's nobody especially planning to kill her. Minato would end up the 4th Hokage and would marry Kushina Uzumaki, who actually does not possess the Nine Tails. She would end up pregnant with his child, and this child would be born on October 10th. His name would be Hashirama. Hashirama Namikaze. Boy, that's weird. But guess what? About a year before this, Mikoto Uchiha gave birth to her second son, a boy she named Madara. Madara Uchiha, which is even weirder. His older brother is Izuna. Hashirama would be born peacefully in a hospital room as opposed to a dank cave, and he would grow up loved by his parents and friendly with the villagers. Madara would also grow up beside his brother, whom he loved very much. Hashirama and Madara would both be in the same academy class together, where both would often compete, one as son of the head of the Uchiha and other as son of the Hokage, both trying to outdo the other and prove their place as worthy of the title of Hokage. Madara was a perfectionist. If there was any subject he fell behind in, especially if he had fallen behind Hashirama, he would double down, spending much of his free time working on things as opposed to playing like a normal child would. Madara and Hashirama would spar often and grow stronger together as their rivalry pushed them forward. Hashirama never had any issue keeping up with Madara, with the both of them being near the head of their class in everything but book studies, in which Sakura claimed that spot. Both boys were considered the heartthrobs of their respective class, perhaps even the whole academy, each one being strong with vastly different personalities that somehow worked well together. When time came to graduate, Hashirama and Madara would both pass with flying colors, ending up on the same team with Sakura, their only rival in studies, being there as well. Kakashi would also appear as their jonin and would introduce himself to the class. As he'd go about, he would ask the team of their dreams, and Sakura, well, Madara both is and isn't Sasuke at the same time, so I don't know what her goal would be now. Possibly to be the best medical nin in the village? We know she certainly has the knack for it. Or perhaps that's just the genius of Lady Tsunade's training. Hashirama would wish to be the Hokage, and Madara would wish to be the Hokage before Hashirama. That would start an argument, as Hashirama would amend his own dreams to being Hokage before Madara. Kakashi would roll his eyes and then ask his team to participate in the bell test. This was to test their teamwork. Hashirama and Madara's teamwork consisted of stepping over each other to get those bells. Definitely not something one would call teamwork. However, after time would pass, Hashirama would be the first to insinuate putting the rivalry aside for a moment to accomplish their common goal, which Madara would agree with. And so, Hashirama would attempt to use his various wood-style techniques to distract Kakashi, at first creating a wood root in an attempt to grab his foot like an octopus's tendril. Then, Hashirama's wood clone would come out to attack Kakashi along with Madara, causing Kakashi to dodge backward exactly where Madara said he would be. The real Hashirama would appear from behind to take the bells, but Kakashi would dodge that as well. The plan had failed, but only barely, and Kakashi knew as much. As the sun set, he would come to his disappointed team. Sakura and Hashirama both bore faces of depression, while Madara's face was one of disgust and frustration, yet respect for their teacher once he returned. Kakashi would raise his thumb and tell them that they passed. Hashirama would be the first one to ask if this could possibly be true, with Madara being the one to still be sitting on the ground and asking Kakashi what kind of test they had just taken. Kakashi would tell them that the test was to see how well they worked together, how well they meshed with teamwork, and that they all passed with flying colors. Hashirama was pulling the chain beside Sakura while Madara rose to his feet with a pleased smile. Kakashi would officially take them on as Team 7, and together they would begin doing genin work. Ugh, yeah, that isn't very much work at all. It's more like looking for lost cats, walking dogs, and picking up litter, which to a point both Hashirama and Madara think is a waste of their abilities. Nonetheless, they compete with each other to see who can pick up the most garbage and who can walk the most dogs without losing control, who can climb the tree fastest to rescue the cat. Hashirama tended to win these competitions, but on most occasions nearly dropped the cat, something Sakura would always scold him for. Nonetheless, when the time came, they would begin to wait for a new mission in which they can compete, and the 4th Hokage, while listing off missions, would quickly name the Land of Waves mission with a sniff as if he was trying to hide it, yet intentionally drawing attention to it with that sniff. He would then look over the bridge of his nose through raised brows at the two boys. Hashirama is almost begging for a mission to prove himself, and Madara is like, for Pete's sake, Lord 4th, just give us the mission already. Minato would give Team 7 the Land of Waves mission, which, to his experience, wasn't overly dangerous, but something far more exciting than community service. The day would come when they would set out to go, and of course the Demon Brothers would appear. Madara would see it first, followed by Hashirama, both of them getting a mysterious look on their face as they launched their attacks. Madara jumping into the air with a kunai in both hands and a third in his teeth, while Hashirama speedily weaves hand signs to send 5 different tree roots out of the ground to impale the shinobi. And it was in that moment that the Demon Bros knew that they were screwed. Kakashi would be about to make mention of how illegal it was for Tazuna to lie about the rank of the mission, but after seeing how well his team handles it, he relents and they continue. They would then be stopped by Zabuza. Madara would have his arms crossed as his Sharingan stared at Zabuza with a grin of excitement. Hashirama was also smiling but beginning to lower into a fighting stance. Kakashi would tell them that the fight is his, with Madara rolling his eyes and Hashirama exclaiming an expletive in disappointment. Kakashi would smile and say that he needs a little fun too. He'd then engage in battle with Zabuza, where he would use his Sharingan to keep up with his techniques. Madara would see this and seem slightly offended that one without Uchiha blood would possess a Sharingan. He began to wonder where he got it and how, but that was a question for another time. Right now, he needed to save his mentor. Hashirama and Madara would encircle Zabuza, both looking at each other as if saying that he knew what to do. Madara would form a clone and would begin throwing kunai at Zabuza to keep his attention, while Madara weaved hand signs. Zabuza, on the other hand, was keeping track of what Hashirama was doing since he knew what Madara was doing. Hashirama would send a wave of roots at Zabuza. Zabuza would pull out his executioner blade and would swing in one horizontal swipe, taking out both the kunai and the roots. Suddenly, the ground below him would erupt with roots, causing him to flip up in the air in just such a way that he was still touching the sphere of water, looking as if he were using the sphere to flip over to the other side. While in the air, he looked around and saw Hashirama and 2 Madara, and then saw the ground where he was going, blade in hand, ready to swipe. What he didn't notice was that in the sky above him, a 3rd Madara was coming down with a kunai that he embedded into his shoulder. Zabuza would grab Madara and throw him off as the clone poofed away, revealing another clone. A 4th Madara threw a wave of kunai which Zabuza deflected with his blade. However, behind him, Kakashi was standing up. Zabuza had yet to realize that he had stopped touching the water prison when the clone fell on his back. Zabuza would jump back, only to be seemingly struck down by Haku. Haku would then take the body away. Kakashi would suspect that Zabuza wasn't dead, but before he could take enough time to care, he would collapse from overusing his Sharingan. They would take him to Tezuna's house. As he recovered, Kakashi would command his team to train by mastering the ability to run up the tree. He told them that every time they ran up the tree to make a notch and aim higher until they reached the top. Sakura was a first-timer, able to master it off the bat. Hashirama and Madara had a harder time, but their rivalry pushed them forward, forcing them to work half to death. Back at the house during dinner, Madara would confront Kakashi on his Sharingan, asking him where he got the dojutsu of the Uchiha clan. Kakashi told him that it was a gift from a friend that was no longer with them. Madara questioned if he pilfered it from the body, and Kakashi would snap at him, telling him to cut out that talk. He would say that his friend saved his life after Kakashi lost an eye saving his. In return, as his friend died, he gave him his Sharingan. This seemed to please Madara, as he had heard of Uchiha doing that in the past. It's then that Inari shows up and shouts that Kakashi's friend was foolish and that heroes always end up dead. Madara would turn to Inari, not getting riled up, but speaking to him as if it were merely a statement of truth. He said, "Wake up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world. The longer you live, the more you realize that the only things that truly exist in this reality are pain, suffering, and futility. Listen, everywhere you look in this world, wherever there is light, there will always be shadows to be found as well. As long as there is a concept of victors, the vanquished will also exist. The selfish intent of wanting to preserve peace initiates war, and hatred is born in order to protect love. There are nexuses, causal relationships that cannot be separated. There will always be winners and losers, and I can tell you right now, you're a loser. Maybe you lost a friend or family member. Whatever. You lose and you are the victim. Only ever being a victim, because that is all you will ever allow yourself to be. Me, on the other hand, I will be a winner. I won't let fate and circumstance control me. If I am going to be caught in this causal loop, I might as well be on the winning side of it. Isn't that right, Hashirama?" Hashirama, without completely understanding what Madara had just said, agreed, not yet knowing that he unintentionally called Madara better than him. And yes, before you ask, I was looking for any reason to put Madara's most famous quote in here. It's a very obvious homage. You either enjoy it or don't, because that's the causal nexus, or whatever he said. Inari didn't really understand what Madara had said either, but he did know that he was being condescending, and that he had called him a loser, trivializing his pain and sorrow. Inari would run off to cry, and Sakura would slap Madara in the back of the head, evoking no reaction but a mischievous smile. Everyone around the dinner table was real quiet after that. The next day, Madara and Hashirama would be on the bridge with Sakura and Kakashi, protecting the workers when Zabuza proves Kakashi's suspicions right. Haku is also there, and he locks Madara in the demonic mirroring ice crystals. Madara, with his Sharingan, manages to dodge quite a few Senbon, but he's quickly slowing down, with these Senbon growing faster. He eventually begins to take some hits, some of his limbs going limp. Seeing the problem that Madara is in, Hashirama uses his wood release to create a dome around him, which then branches out into a large spiny shrub, which begins to shatter the mirrors, forcing Haku out. Hashirama would then open the shrub to allow Madara to come out. Madara is pissed now, pulling the Senbon out of his arm. At the same time, he is excited. "I admit, I didn't expect smoke and mirrors to be so painful. You are quite the worthy opponent, Masked Shinobi. Show me some more of those techniques." Hashirama and Madara together begin to push Haku. However, when Haku senses Zabuza in danger, he rushes over and takes the shot, dying on Kakashi's Chidori. Zabuza takes the opening to attack Kakashi, however Kakashi dodges it and launches a counter-offensive that renders both of Zabuza's arms useless. It's then that Gato and his men show up, holding Inari and Tsunami as hostages. Gato begins to boast about his power while railing against Zabuza and Haku, the latter of which he kicks about like garbage. This evokes a negative response from Zabuza, who takes a kunai in his mouth and goes about slaughtering, killing Gato and starting in on his men. During the panic and confusion, Hashirama and Madara save Inari and Tsunami. Zabuza perishes during this battle, but he manages to drive off the remainder of Gato's men. The mission is considered a success, with Team 7 returning to Konoha. Upon returning, Team 7 go about their normal daily duties of delivering milk and walking the elderly across the street. Meanwhile, Kakashi reports to the 4th Hokage about the sheer skill his team possesses and how they are growing at an exponential rate. When the Chunin exams are announced, Kakashi immediately volunteers his team. He would inform his students, and they would cheerfully accept the news, knowing that if they became Chunin, then they might be able to take on even greater missions. As they went though, Rock Lee would stop them, hoping to spar with Hashirama. Madara seems a little jealous, but he can at least admit that Lee is going to have a great fight. Lee and Hashirama fight, with Lee displaying his sheer speed and taijutsu. Madara watches with his Sharingan, stating that even Madara couldn't hope to keep up with that speed, and likely Hashirama can't either. Hashirama attempts to use his wood release to at least put up defenses to bottleneck Lee. Hashirama knew that if he couldn't slow Lee down, he would have to limit where he can strike from, hoping that it would allow him to find a pattern and strike before Lee can stop himself. Madara admitted that this was a good plan. However, Lee didn't quite think so, as he came through the wood with his taijutsu to continue the assault, planning to finish with a front lotus. Before he could finish it though, he was stopped by Might Guy, who chastised and punished him for breaking his self-rule of only using it when required. Sakura noted how strange Lee and Guy Sensei were, while Madara and Hashirama just took in all the data from their battle, hoping to somehow fit it into their styles. Then they signed up for the exams. The first test was a written one, which, though Hashirama and Madara could answer some of them, didn't know all of it. So Madara decided to use his Sharingan to cheat, as he assumed that that was the true goal due to the uncharacteristically intense nature of the questions. Hashirama used his wood release to track the movement of everyone's pencils, having reached the same conclusion. Sakura just eggheads her way through it. Then comes the final question, which Ibiki Marino states could end careers if answered incorrectly. Regardless, Madara and Hashirama, their pure determination and desire to outdo each other pushes them forward, which is actually the correct answer. Merely taking the question is the correct answer, as it shows guts in the face of permanent damage to one's career. The second test is the Forest of Death. During the test though, they are attacked by Orochimaru, who brands Hashirama but is driven off by Madara. Madara and Sakura get him to safety, and Madara questions what happened. They discover a curse mark on the back of Hashirama's neck. Sakura asks what they must do, and Madara says that they must do the best that they can and protect him until he wakes up. And there is no doubt in Madara's mind that Hashirama will wake up. Madara knows that Hashirama is a fighter, so they defend him. Eventually Team Dosu shows up and begins to threaten them, to which Madara releases a hearty laugh just to screw with them and emotionally charge the situation. An upset enemy is a reckless enemy. He wants to be in control of the situation and wants to force them to make mistakes. Madara activates his Sharingan and puts on his most pleasure-filled, battle-crazed face for fear factor. As they fight, however, Hashirama wakes up in a craze, the power of the curse mark flowing through him. He uses his wood release in the middle of the forest to create a massive tree right in front of them that rises way above the rest, each branch spawning a wood clone just as mindless as Hashirama. The clones begin to attack Team Dosu. Zaku attempts to blast them apart with his arm cannons, but they just keep coming. Sakura would rush up to Hashirama and hug him from behind, asking him to stop. This snaps Hashirama out of this and brings him back to his senses. Team Dosu barely escapes with their lives, and Madara rolls his eyes in disappointment. He pats Hashirama's shoulder and tells him to hurry up. They're burning their time away and they still haven't gotten their scroll. They manage to pass this test by the skin of their teeth, but then comes the third test's preliminary exhibitions. Word reaches that Hashirama has received a curse mark, and it's recommended that he drop out of the exams, and Madara looks at him to see if he will. Hashirama refuses, and he's then informed that if he uses it during the matches, then he'll automatically lose. The matches start, and Hashirama is up against Yoroi, who he defeats using taijutsu he learned from Lee. Madara faces Kiba and Akamaru, which he comments should count as two fighters, but won't make a difference either way. He also beats them. Sakura gets double KO'd with Ino, so she is out. They then put a seal on the curse mark of heaven to keep it from spreading when he uses jutsu. Hashirama would pass out for a time and then wake up. They're given a month to train, and that month is spent by Madara training with Kakashi, while Hashirama is sent specifically to Jiraiya, who would teach him how to summon Gamabunta and how to form Rasengan. After the month is up, Hashirama and Madara return for their matches. Madara is set up to fight against Neji Hyuga, while Hashirama must face Gaara. Madara faces off against Neji, and together they fight for the pride of their respective clans, who are both known for their dojutsu. Madara keeps his Sharingan active for the whole battle due to his pride. In the end, this was the mistake that cost Madara the match, as he had stepped into Neji's range, and Neji unleashed the 8 trigrams 64 palms, leaving Madara in a pool of his own drool. Hashirama's battle against Gaara eventually came. Gaara was fast, and he had a great defense that Hashirama had a hard time getting around. His attack power was nothing to sniff at either. However, Hashirama had his own plans. He used the wood release to force the grass to grow up under Gaara and wrap his feet. Gaara then raised a sand shield to protect him, but Hashirama came through anyway with a Rasengan, which didn't destroy the shield. However, the force of the Rasengan still passed through the shield and struck Gaara, sending him flying back, causing some internal bleeding as displayed by him coughing up blood. Gaara would flee the stadium. As Hashirama and Madara went to chase him though, a roar shook the stadium as the Hokage's box was bombed out. Getting to a high place, they saw the Ninetales in the village, wreaking havoc. Orochimaru would face off against the 4th Hokage. Orochimaru possessed a Sharingan which he claimed would allow him to see Minato no matter how fast he went. Minato planned to test that theory. Madara and Hashirama ended up attempting to fight the Ninetales. Madara hoped to control it with a Genjutsu, but the Ninetales was already under somebody else's Genjutsu. Hashirama summoned Gamabunta as Jiraiya also attempted to deal with the snakes that had come in. Minato found that he was indeed too slow not to be seen. However, he did have one trick up his sleeve. He threw a kunai at Orochimaru, which Orochimaru dodged with a laugh, wondering how anyone could think that would work against him. Instead, Minato teleported to the kunai and used Rasengan in Orochimaru's back, killing him. At that moment, the Ninetales was free from the Genjutsu and was now just regular angry. Madara cast it under Genjutsu. It was then that Kushina used her sealing jutsu to seal it into her body, knowing that the tailed beast would destroy the village otherwise. It had been put off long enough. Now Kurama was a threat and needed to be chained up like a dog that bit the neighbor. After this, there was plenty of peace in the village until after the 2.5-year time skip. Hashirama would have gone off during that time to learn Sage Mode, while Madara continued to train. Gaara would end up becoming the Kazekage of Sunagakure, but during the course of this, he was captured by the Akatsuki's Deidara and Sasori. Team 7 would be sent to deal with this, but by the time they got there, it was too late, and Gaara was already dead. However, they managed to stop Deidara from escaping with the body, and even managed to kill Sasori. Chiyo would use her One's Own Life reincarnation technique to bring Gaara back to life at the cost of her own. Team 7 would return to their village and report this. Minato would then decide that it's best to focus on the defeat of these Akatsuki members. He would get reports of 2 members and would send shinobi out after them. Hidan would be encountered by Team Asuma, which would lead to Asuma's death. However, Hashirama and Madara would join the attempt to track down and kill these Akatsuki members, and together Madara and Hashirama would kill Kakazu, while Hidan was defeated by Shikamaru, avenging Asuma. Jiraiya would have been sent to Amagakure, where he would encounter Pain and die. This news hits Hashirama pretty hard. Eventually, Pain would come seeking the Ninetales, which is in Kushina. In the process, he would kill many people, including Izuna, which sets Madara off. Madara would achieve his Mangekyo Sharingan and use it to attack Pain, along with Hashirama. However, Pain gets what he came for, taking the Ninetales from Kushina. This results in her death. Hashirama is once more hit with the pain of loss, but this time Madara is experiencing loss as well. They console each other in their own special way. Minato would call a 5-Kage summit to discuss the threat of the Akatsuki and how they are taking tailed beasts. It's revealed that the Akatsuki by this point have all but one of them, the 8 Tails, which is safely hidden by the Raikage. However, Zetsu overhears the location as he spies on the meeting, and they send Kisame Hoshigaki to get the tailed beast. Minato is voted to be the head of the allied shinobi forces, which the Raikage can't disagree with, as he was nearly killed by Minato during the Third Shinobi World War. They begin to march to battle and end up facing off against not only Zetsu, but also Edo Tensei that Kabuto has supplied the Akatsuki. This results in the likes of Naruto, Sasuke, and Tobirama coming back to life, which Hashirama and Madara are forced to fight against. In the end, Madara and Hashirama are forced to fight Kabuto in order to make him release the Edo Tensei, which is only possible when Madara uses Izanami on Kabuto to force it to happen. They would return to the battlefield where they must face off against Pain, who has implanted the chakra of the 8 Tails and 9 Tails into the Geto statue, thus awakening it as the 10 Tails. Hashirama and Madara fight against 10 Tails Jinchuriki Nagato. However, they are horribly outmatched. This results in both nearly dying. However, the Sage of Six Paths would visit them in a vision, and would give each of them some of his chakra with which to fight against the 10 Tails. They would begin to fight Nagato, but eventually Black Zetsu, who had been manipulating things all along, would transform Nagato into Kaguya, who would then approach the moon and begin to cast the Infinite Tsukiyomi. Madara, Hashirama, Kakashi, Minato, and Sakura are the only ones not to be put under. They then enter battle against Kaguya, which leads them through various different dimensions. They can't even seem to land a hit on her, however with Kakashi and Sakura's help, they manage to get her off balance. Remembering his fight with Neji, Madara remembers that there is a weak spot at the base of a Byakugan user's neck and laments that he still couldn't beat Neji back then. Kakashi and Sakura team up and help Minato hit her in that spot in the back of the neck, knocking her into the waiting sun and moon marks on Hashirama and Madara's hands. This seals her away and frees the tailed beasts. Returning to their home reality, Madara would undo the Infinite Tsukiyomi, allowing people to wake up. The tailed beasts are freed and peace ensues. Well, that is until Toneri attempts to destroy the Earth. However, Madara and Hashirama together put that threat to rest and save Hinata and Hanabi as well. In the end, Hashirama marries her and is named the 5th Hokage later on. Now, to let you know, Hashirama does have a child in canon, but they're never named. And so for simplicity, I will say that he names his daughter Tsunade. Years later, Momoshiki and Kinshiki appear to plant another god tree and reap the chakra of the planet, but the 4 Kage come together to help Hashirama and Madara defeat them, which Hashirama manages to do with a father-daughter Big Ball Rasengan. Now, the issue after this is what they would do about Ishiki. You know they still have to deal with that, right? While they do have a lot of cool abilities, what can they really do about Ishiki? Well, here's the thing about Madara and Hashirama. They both have incredible chakra reserves. Madara and Hashirama in the original timeline fought each other non-stop for 24 hours straight, and Ishiki only has 3 days to live. While it may look like they're short an extra 24 hours, remember that they both don't have to fight at the same time and can take time to rest while the other's fighting. They may even just take a military ration pill, which is said to be able to allow one to keep fighting for 72 hours, which, if I recall correctly, is plenty enough to bring down Ishiki. Then again, I just really like Hashirama and Madara and maybe just want to see them win. But that's just my 2 cents. What did you think of the video? Did you agree with what I said here? I really love Hashirama and Madara, so I might have overplayed some of their power here and there for coolness factor, but I did try to be fair. My Madara Hashirama fanboy brethren might disagree and say that I didn't make them strong enough. But anyway.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.